We're back for another edition of Hat-Tricks Weekly, alongside Hat-Tricks General Manager Matt Voity. I'm the broadcaster, Doug Lattuca. Hat-Tricks fresh off a 9-3 win over the Watertown Wolves on Saturday. Largest margin of victory on home ice. Tied the largest number of goals in a single game in that 9-3 win. What were your overall takeaways from that one?
I think when we decide to play the way that we're built to play, we're pretty unstoppable. We're pretty, I know it sounds cocky, I think we're pretty hard to play against, for sure. When we're physical, we're chipping pucks, we're keeping it simple, we're standing up for each other, we're very difficult to play against. I think that's something, a good step that we took is it wasn't a 9-6 game. Like I think the last time we played them at home ice, it was a 9-3 game, even though our third was a little sloppy. There's still some, it needs to be better. Obviously when you get up that many goals, sometimes things get that way, but we need to be better. But that's an improvement for sure. We didn't totally, we weren't a seesaw. We weren't a bag in the wind where we're really high, then we're really low. So I think that was a really good, observation or a very good characteristic to see coming out of us.
Yeah, and you mentioned the last time that the two teams met here in Danbury was that 9-6 win. So the last two games here at home, you've won 9-6 and 9-3. Yeah. You had a shootout loss the night prior, though, in Watertown. Seems like something is a little bit wonky over there in Watertown. Very similar. It's very similar to last year, right? It was good, high-scoring games, but the results weren't quite there. What was the difference Friday to Saturday?
Well, I think when you look at the Friday game, we lit up 3 in the first, and then the rest of that game, the next two periods, we won 4-1. Then it goes to overtime, then a shootout. When you go to a shootout, it's, you never know who's going to win. We have to really own our starts and come out ready to play and not that there were, probably making that sound horrible. It isn't good. But we need to come out and not wait for something to happen or just assume they're going to make a mistake. We have to go out and take it. We have to go out and make them make mistakes right from the get-go. That's really the next step for this group, is to play a complete 60 and have a 60-minute mindset. We've talked about that the last couple of weeks. And I think Friday, it just came right back in their face and hopefully woke a couple guys up. And the next stretch we have here, the next 5 games, and really this month is a really big month for us in the standings. Obviously we want second place for sure, and this month could decide that. And we need to play 60 minutes. It's not easy. They're human beings as we all are, and you're going to make mistakes. But I think that when we have that energy level and that effort level and that mental sharpness for 60 minutes, it's very difficult to beat us.
You mentioned wanting to get the number 2 seed. Playoffs are a little bit different this year with the new additions of some teams. 6 out of the 7 teams from the Empire will make it. First 2 teams get a bye from that wild card round. So it is fairly important. You don't have to play as many games right out of the bat, and then you get to establish and prepare for that first round, technically, if you have that bye. So is that sort of the message to the guys, letting them know, okay, here is a path for us to get that bye? What's your messaging playoff-wise about midway through the season?
I haven't gotten so much into the nuts and bolts of if we get this off, but it's, it's really just been more about, like, we need to play to our potential. I said after Friday night's game to them, you're too good to be having games like this, and you need to come out and be ready to play. And there's going to be days where you don't feel it, and you got to get it done anyway. And those are those character wins that everyone talks about at every level. And that's really where we are with that messaging right now. Like, we should be in second place. If you look at, I say should in the sense of what the expectations are and who we have in that room and what they're capable of. There's no reason we shouldn't be in second place. We're where we are because we put ourselves there. But I think guys in that room realize, we could easily be in second place and have even more points than Port right now.
You mentioned your team showing some domination in that game on Saturday. Is it the idea of consistency, getting to that level of play, getting to the potential? How do you draw that out of everyone every single game, especially when points are this crucial?
It's, I think it's a daily thing. I think you have to keep your goal in front of you daily. Like, we talked about this morning, like, our goal is a championship. And, if that's your goal, you just work backwards. What do you need to do, this season? What do you need to do this month, this week, today in practice? And keeping it in front of you every day like that is important. And I think, look, we do have some young guys. We do have some inexperienced guys. And we do have some guys with rings. And I think it's easy to get comfortable in a long season, especially when you're practicing every day. And look, I think we have, the players have it really good here in Danbury. And it can be easy for a young guy to get comfortable. And that's where I think, my job, Johnny, Gonzo, and even the leadership, we have to make sure that no one's getting too comfortable, and that requires us to really examine practice and how we're going about it, and not even just the drills that we do, but just how are we doing the drills, and eventually that's going to pay off, right? We had a lot of new faces this year. Some of these things take time, which I know can be painful, believe me. We all want results fast, but it's going to pay off for us.
You guys scored a lot of goals this season so far. Goal differential, though, has been more on the minus side than it is the positive. Allowing goals has been an issue this season, whether that's on the defensemen or on the goaltenders. But in your last 3 wins, you've allowed a combined 4 goals. What are you seeing from your defensive unit, whether that's the defensemen or the goaltenders?
Coming into this season, the philosophy was we're going to defend by attacking, right? So when our forecheck's good, that slows the opposing team down for our defense, and it's much more manageable rushes and entries for us. So I think, I have to give the forwards credit there for really, incorporating the forecheck in those wins. The D have kept it simple. When our D keep it simple and don't try to overplay it, and they have good gaps on the rushes, we're good. We're blocking a few more shots. So it is a team effort for sure. It's not, sometimes we let 4 or 5 goals, and, some of that isn't always all on the defenseman or all on the goalies. Some of it is on the forwards. And are they doing their job in the O-zone, slowing up the opposing team coming out? Because if you don't have that, then you've just basically got 3 to 5 guys coming at your D and your goalie, and you allow that too many times, you're going to have too many goals going in your net.
Guys on the power play last game snapped a 5-game skid. What are the conversations like during practice in the locker room when things aren't quite going the way that you wanted on the power play? Even if you think, all right, we have some good puck movement, we've got some zone time, some solid opportunities, it's just not going in.
Well, I think, the good thing about this group is they want to work. When they recognize there's an issue, or they understand when there's an issue, their first reflex is to, hey, let's go to work on it, right? Which is great. I think for our power play, it's really just trying to keep it simple, a few more quick touches, a little more net front, and I think we're going to see some more production there. Again, it's one of those things like power plays run hot and cold, or there's a point I think we're up around 25%. I think we're top 5 in the league, and now I think we're kind of middle of the pack. So that can change in a weekend, especially in this league. So I think it's just more about keeping the process consistent, and then how are we executing on that process.
On the other side of special teams, the penalty kill has started to find its groove a little bit, despite allowing the 2 power play goals somewhat in garbage time last game. What's the attack against the 6th-ranked power play in the Venom this weekend? You see him for 3 games. Does it vary team by team, or is the structure and the goals pretty similar every time the PK steps on the ice?
Well, I think team to team, you just have to identify where their best players are on the ice. And with Hudson Valley, it's really important to identify Gesso, obviously, but they have some other good pieces, and great if you have your net front D or your wing in his lane, that's fine. But the other three guys have to make sure they're defending, and that's really just comes down to it. I don't think it's anything where we have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to identify Gesso and make sure we're on our game with, away from the puck or away from him.
The team is second in the league in shorthanded goals. Do you think the aggressiveness sometimes of the kill has hurt you guys?
No, I know what you're saying. I kind of understand. I think there's probably been times where it has bit us, but I think those are instances where we needed a goal. Yeah. We needed to do something. I think it's more just details. Like, if our stick's a little out of place, the puck was going through the seam, and it was a one-timer. Any kind of puck on net, and they're getting a stick on it, not our guy, or our guy's not getting a body on it, and it's going in. And I'm not saying it's all bad luck, but I think it's just a lot of little details that have taken some time to get worked out.
Last time the two teams played, you guys swept them here at the Danbury Ice Arena, but you came out of that not so sure about the team's performance, a little bit down on it. There were some very tight wins against a Venom team that had lost a few players, was missing a couple of their star guys. What were the takeaways from that game, and how do you avoid some of the negative play that you saw in that series?
We just can't take anybody lightly. I mean, at this point, it's it's going to be February 1st, on Saturday, and it's 2.5 months left in the season all of a sudden, and now every game, we're looking at our schedule. We're playing Port Huron, I think 5 times, Watertown. We can't overlook Hudson Valley and Danville. We have to treat those teams and treat those games as if they're playoff games, and we need to win those 5 games, starting one at a time, of course. But those are just as important games as playing anybody ahead of us in the standings.
A little more than midway through the season, what would you say the energy level is like with the team as that push for the playoffs has slowly started to ramp up?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's a resilient group. Like I said, they just want to get to work on whatever they need to work on. And, I think it's a good vibe in there. Like I said, I think the next step is just coming out ready to play on time, no matter who the opponent is, whether they're ahead of us in the standings, below us in the standings, and understanding, hey, there's no moral victories anymore. We need to come out with wins, and if it's a shootout win, that's great. But given the way I think what we have in that room, like, we should be coming out expecting to win.
You've only played one road game against the Venom this season, and it was in their former arena. Now you play at McCann Arena for the first time this season. As professionals, these guys are pretty familiar with playing in different spots, places that they are making their debuts at, if you would. How do you get the team ready to go? It's not a very long bus trip, if it's a bus trip at all, unless these guys are just driving themselves up there. How do you get them in the mindset, okay, this will be after 2 games as well. This will be Friday, Saturday here. How do you get them ready to go for Sunday?
It depends a little bit sometimes what happens Friday, Saturday. I think the fact that it's close by and, obviously our fans go there, and I think the new venue's a little bit bigger, that helps a lot because it almost feels like a little bit like a home game, just because of the geography of it. I think where we are right now is plenty motivation for them, no matter, the back end of a 3-3 or whatever it is, for them to come out and give their best and play with character. And that's really what those back ends of 3-3s are going to be, is character. Doing things the right way when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're hurt. Can you do what's expected, what is needed for 60 minutes, or at least the majority of 60 minutes, and come out with what you need to come out with? In the past when we've had, our first year, the year we won, that was a characteristic that we had, and that's a characteristic we're trying to develop here. I think we're ready to take that step. We'll find out this weekend.
Doesn't seem like it's too hard to motivate the group, especially when you've hit midway through. Everyone kind of sees the standings. They know what the points are. And you've got mostly Empire Division opponents coming up the rest of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have the standings up in the room, and the guys see where we are, and, they realize we're less than 2 games out of second place. It's, I think there's plenty to get fired up about, and I think some of the young guys are starting to see, or new guys too, are starting to see that, when you win in this town, it's pretty special. It's pretty fun, and they haven't even won a playoff game yet, or a championship, and wait to see what happens then. It's really great, and I think they're starting to see that, and they're starting to sense it, and that's why I think we're poised to really take a big step here.
What's the big thing you're looking for on Friday night, game 1 of this 3-game series, opening 5-10 minutes? What are you hoping to see?
Come out the right way. Come out right on time. You never know what the score is going to be. There's so many variables to that. But coming out and executing at a high level the way we did on Saturday, and just continuing that for the next 2 periods.
Like most teams, good starts usually result in good finishes. So the Hat-Tricks will look to get off to a hot start here in Danbury. We've got 2 games Friday and Saturday here at the Danbury Ice Arena, and then Sunday in Poughkeepsie at McCann Ice Arena. First time the Hat-Tricks travel up there, not too far, right on I-84. You can grab all your tickets at danburyhattricks.com. Check out our social media as well. Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.